What is going on with Tiffany Haddish? You know, she is now trying to blame prosecutors in her DUI case, which is still open. I'm not talking about the cases when the youngins said that Tiffany had them doing strange things for change and promised them the bright lights of Hollywood if only they would. Anyway, we're not going to get into Tiffany Haddish and the way she's been embroiled in two lawsuits. You know what? Let's stick to the DUI. We'll talk about that stuff later, right? Anyway, she is now trying to say that the DUI case hurt her career. Listen, Tiffany Haddish. Yeah, actually, let me read this article and then I'll give my opinion of Tiffany Haddish. Because honestly, Tiffany Haddish and Kevin Hart, I think, are two sides of the same coin. Not really, but I mean career-wise, right? She is fine playing a stereotypical black woman, right? Okay, fine, right? She's a good actress. The roles that they put her in are very limited, and she's fine to play those roles. Same thing with Kevin Hart. I would actually argue Tiffany Haddish suffers under misogynoir in the fact that the people that Kevin kowtows to would much rather humiliate a black man than humiliate a black woman who is willing, eager, and ready to be humiliated. Do you know what I'm saying? Anyway, Tiffany is now saying that the reason that she doesn't have any career isn't because the white elite that she worked so hard to please don't want her anymore. She was bragging about having a seat at Kevin Hart's roast and said that anybody that criticized the roast, the comedians, oh, they weren't even invited. Why would you want to be invited to a metaphorical lynching of one of arguably the most successful, right, crossing over into mainstream black male comedians? And through all that, the George Floyd jokes or Tony Hinch jokes or whatever, Tiffany was fine to play the game and do whatever she needed to do because she thought it would secure her the bag. The only thing is, I think the one thing Tiffany Haddish doesn't realize is you can have the heart of a hooker. And I'm not trying to say that she is a hooker or that she would ever. That's not my point. My point is, you can be willing to do anything for a dollar, sacrifice anyone to get ahead. But often, the people that want you to demean yourself, debase yourself, and have no boundaries, well, they don't want you. They want someone who has morals and ethics that they have to chip away at slowly. They want someone that makes it a challenge. You know, it's like when you roll over easy, right? Yeah, right. Anyway, I think that's what's going on with Tiffany right now in her career. She has to act like she has some type of morals, ethics, or boundaries for people to break. As long as you pretend, I'm sure there will be a lot of people that want to pay you to actually break them. But let's get into what Tiffany, again, this is all my opinion. I don't know Tiffany or anybody else that knows her. And what do I know, right? She's way more successful than me. I'm just a humble YouTuber. But I would, if I could give her career advice that she won't listen to, that's what I would say. Just pretend you don't want it. Pretend you won't do a lowbrow joke. Pretend that you won't get kids together for an acting comedian thing and have them doing weird things to Subway sound. Like pretend, make them work for it. Anyway, they said Tiffany Haddish says her DUI case has dragged on so long it should be thrown out. But prosecutors are firing back, arguing that Tiffany hasn't showed the delay actually hurt her. What is taking this DUI? I will say this, right? And I will never defend Tiffany Haddish, right? But I will say this. What is taking so long for this case? Are they waiting for her to mess up again? I mean, it's not like she's back to drinking or doing stuff. As far as everybody's been recording, she's been walking the straight and narrow, and she's been clean and sober since this happened. This DUI was a wake-up call for her, I imagine. So why is this taking so long to settle? Anyway, according to new court documents obtained by TMZ, the state of Georgia is urging a judge to reject Tiffany's motion to dismiss the case, which stems from her January 2022 DUI arrest in Peachtree City. This is almost 4 years. What is taking so long? Now, they said prosecutors acknowledged that more than four. Okay, they're addressing it. I'm reading this real time. Shut up. I was so busy giving my opinion about Tiffany's career that I didn't bother to read the article. And they said prosecutors acknowledged the more than 4 year delay weighs against them, but they insist it wasn't intentional. Intentional and shouldn't carry much weight. They also argued Tiffany announced she was ready for trial, but never actually requested an immediate trial, a distinction they say matters under Georgia law. The filing takes direct aim at Tiffany's claims that the unresolved case has damaged her career and limited her ability to travel internationally. Wasn't she under the same thing when she traveled to Israel to see what was going on and then ate pickles and gave us a thing about how she don't see anything wrong? She literally was the person that ushered in peace to the Middle East. Didn't she do that? while she was drinking orange juice on her first class flight, that when she was so over to Israel to actually talk about this was the beginning. I could have sworn that was once the case was going on. So what is she talking about? She's been to Kevin Hart's roast, laughing along with all the other raccoons in the garbage can. She's been doing a lot of stuff. I think she went international and was amazed that Africa had supermarkets. Like, wow, they don't teach us about this back home. Africa got wow, right? Wasn't she the one? Wasn't this all why the DUI, whatever, the DWI case that was happening? So how is this restricting her travel? Wasn't she over in Africa kicking with warlords, or I don't know if they're warlords, but they had, like, you know what I'm saying? Gods of war, whatever you want to call them. Anyway, prosecutors say that she's offered no evidence beyond broad assertions that she lost work as an entertainer and has been unable to visit certain countries because of the pending charges. What question? She's been to Africa, Israel, where else? The Caribbean. Where else she been? She been a lot of places. I don't know if I believe this, Tiffany. Anyway, the state also argues that Tiffany hasn't really suffered from the delay, noting that she's not been incarcerated while the case has been pending. As for her claims of anxiety and stress, prosecutors say those concerns are common in criminal cases and aren't enough to, on their own, to justify dismissal. I would even argue you're now sober, so you're having to learn to remanage, and you're going to have to learn to remanage and actually deal with your emotions. I mean, listen, the prosecutors were, sorry, I'm back. So I would argue that, yes, the prosecutors, I am side-eyeing for keeping this case going for 4 years. But is this all Tiffany can say? Why doesn't she just let the case like go forward? What really is going on? Anyway, TMZ previously reported Tiffany asked the court last month to toss out the case, arguing that the years-long delay had unfairly impacted both her professional and personal life. Her attorneys also blasted prosecutors over the handling of the case, calling the timeline unprecedented. That is true. Again, what took so long for this case to come up? Tiffany said she's ready for trial, but she never filed the motions to actually go to trial. I think Tiffany's plan was, because there's a thing. Sorry, guys, another system glitch. Anyway, hear me out. I think what was going on is, I think Tiffany Haddish, it's my opinion, right? From what I remember of the case, I could be wrong about a few details, but let me just say this. Overall, I think what was going on is Tiffany Haddish, um, I think when this DUI case happened, she didn't want to go to trial because if it is, she would have gone on probation and she would have been monitored and all this other stuff. Now, I know she's been clean, according to Tiffany, but nobody wants to be monitored, especially when you're dealing with stuff like that. I think they thought if they just let this ride, then eventually they could just get the case thrown out. So the prosecution wasn't moving, they wasn't moving. Then her lawyer was like, this needs to get thrown out. I think they're probably actually surprised that the Florida prosecution was like, we're not throwing anything out. You will be held accountable for what you did. Now, again, don't make me defend Tiffany Haddish because this 4-year thing is weird. Let's see how it resolves. But girl, are you trying to get laughed out of court? You think this case is the reason there wasn't a girls trip too? You think this case is the reason that you haven't been in any movies? As a matter of fact, why hasn't she? Because she's super tight with Kevin Hart, and we all know that she will laugh at every joke Tony Hinchcliffe says. So why hasn't she gotten any roles? Again, taking it back, I think it's because the people that like in Hollywood, everything's a humiliation ritual. But if you have no pride and you're willing to do anything to get a role, get a dollar. And again, I do not know if this is Tiffany in her heart, but from what I observe, if you have no pride and you're willing to do anything, then that takes the humiliation out of the ritual. And I think the people doing the humiliation ritual is heavy on the humiliation in the ritual. Again, make them work for it. Say, no, I don't want to play. No, I don't think that's funny. Why is a George Floyd joke funny? Why is Kevin Hart being swung by a bonsai tree? How's that funny? Just act like you have any type of boundaries or respect for yourself. And I think they will then be inspired to put the humiliation back in the humiliation ritual. And then your career can start up. Again, that's my opinion. What do I know? I'm just a lowly YouTuber that sleeps on her mama's couch and don't know anything. It's just my opinion. It's my opinion. Anyway, y'all, let me know what you think in the comments. I'll talk to y'all later. Praying for Tiffany Haddish and her career. I would say missing, but I think it's just stalled. We'll see. Listen, we all go through low times, right? And yeah, again, let them put the humiliation back in the humiliation ritual. And you gonna be all right. You gonna be somebody. Anyway, y'all, let me know what you think in the comments. I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.